In this video, we're going to be looking at solving proportions, so you'll be able to set it up and solve it, including word problems. Alright, so a few definitions we have. The first one is equivalent ratios. This is when you have two fractions that when you divide the numerator and denominator, they get the same answer, the same unit rate. If you take those ratios to start with, and the original ratios and set them up and set them equal to each other, we call that a proportion. And you can use proportions to find missing information. So that's what we're going to be doing. So the way you do this is you set up the proportion if it's not already set up for you. So this is especially for word problems. Then you're going to multiply the diagonals together and rewrite the equation. And then you're going to solve for the variable, just like we've done all the other equations we've done so far this year. Alright, so this first one we have x over 4 equals 9 over 10. So what I like to do is to remind myself as I go ahead and circle these, and I'm going to rewrite it as 10 times x, and because I'm multiplying those I can just put them next to each other because I know that means multiply, and then 4 times 9. Okay, now I have to solve this. 10x, bring that down, 4 times 9 is 36, and then to get the x by itself I'm going to divide both sides by 10. And I am going to get 3.6. Okay. The next one we have 2 over 34 equals 5 over y. And so if we put the circles around it, and then we can go ahead and multiply the 2y, and then we have 34 times 5. Okay, and so now we just solve this. So 2y, 34 times 5 is 170. So then divide both sides by 2 to bring the 2 over and get the y by itself, and we get 85. Alright, a few more. We're going to try these ones. So we're going to do 3 times n. And I always do the one that has the variable in it. I put that on the first side just because it's consistently that way. It really doesn't matter which one you put on which side. And then I'm going to do 7 times 2.1. So I'm going to bring down the 3n. 7 times 2.1 is 14.7. And then I'm dividing both sides by 3. And that gives me an answer of 4.9. And then one more we have 4 times x, so 4x. We have 20 times 7. So bring the 4x down. 20 times 7 is 140. We're going to divide both sides by 4 to bring the 4 over, and that gives us 35. Now, if you've done these problems before, or you've kind of seen the pattern, really all we're doing is we're multiplying the two numbers that are diagonal from each other, which is what we did here in this step, and then we divide by the number that's with the x, which is what we did here. It's not a good idea to just get in that habit, especially if you've done these and you were told that's the way you do it, because next year in algebra you are going to get questions like x plus 5 over 10 equals 2x over, we could do another x even, so x plus 3. So you're going to get a problem like this. And so there's no just multiplying across because you have variables in both of this diagonal and this diagonal. So there's no way that you can just multiply and get the answer. So get in the habit of setting up these equations just like this. It's going to make it you remember a little bit easier for next year. Okay, so the process is the same when we do word problems. So let's just read this one out first. We have recycling 2,000 pounds of paper saves about 17 trees. Write and solve a proportion to determine how many trees you would save by recycling 5,000 pounds of paper. So what I like to do is I like to make myself a little cheat sheet off to the side with the units. So I have pounds, lbs, and trees. So that means when I'm placing my numbers into my proportion, anything that has a label of pounds will go in the numerator, and anything with the label of trees will go in the denominator. So we see 2,000 pounds and 17 trees. Because that information goes together, 2,000 pounds saves 17 trees, that also has to go on the same side of the equal sign. So the 2,000 pounds, so I'm going to put the 2,000 on top since I labeled that with pounds, and the 17 on bottom since I labeled the bottom with trees. And then my other number I have is 5,000 pounds. So I know it has to go on top because it is labeled with pounds. And the question is asking how many trees. So that's where my X is going to go. So using this little chart off to the side is very, very helpful to get in the habit of making that. All right, so now that I have it set up, I can go ahead and do what we did on the other problems. So we have 2000x and then 17 times 5,000. Bring down that 2,000. 17 times 5,000 is 85,000. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 2,000 to bring that over. And if you know this trick, that's awesome. But a nice thing I can do is I can cross off when I have pairs of zeros. Because they're dividing each other out, they just will go away. And we're going to just really be doing 85 divided by 2. So if this were on a test where you weren't allowed a calculator, it may look daunting to try and do 85,000 and 2,000, but it looks a lot easier when you have 85 and 2. So when you divide these two out, you get 42.5 trees. And make sure that on these ones, because it is a word problem, that you have the label on it. So it should say trees on it. Alright, so the key takeaway when you're doing word problems is to make yourself a chart. Set up the numbers where they go, so anything with pounds will go on the top, anything with trees will go on the bottom, and then just go ahead and set up that equation and solve. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video here and try these on your own. You've got 2 that are already set up and then 1 word problem to try. Alright, so the first one we have 5 times t and then 3 times 18. Bring down that 5t, 3 times 18, that gives me 54. Divide both sides by 5, and we get 10.8. The next one we have 20 times h, and then 12 times negative 16. Bring down the 20h, 12 times negative 16 is negative 192. Divide both sides by 20, and we have negative 9.6. Okay, and then Wendy used 3 cups of cookies of cookie mix to make 48 cookies. How many cups will she need to make 72 cookies? So I have my 2 units are going to be cups and cookies. And I can't just label these both with like C for cups, C for cookies. Since they both start with C, that wouldn't make sense. Alright, so we have 3 cups and 48 cookies. So that's in the same sentence, so I'm going to fill that in. So it's 3 cups, so cups is on top, 3 is on top. 48 cookies, cookies is on bottom, so 48 is on bottom. And then we have 72 cookies. So 72 will go on bottom because cookies is the label on the bottom. Alright, so then we're going to do 3 times 72. And then 48 times x. So 3 times 72 gives me 216. Bring down that 48x, and we're going to divide both sides by 48. So those cancel. 216 divided by 48 is 4.5. So we have 4.5 cups is what we're going to need. Alright, so thank you for watching this video, and this is the end.